Welcome, our dear viewers and listeners. Welcome to the other perspective. Today, we are going to be looking at will the parish development model take Uganda to middle income status? We do know that government of Uganda has come up with a new intervention to alleviate poverty at household level, and that is the parish development model. This model is a strategy for accelerating wealth and job creation and improving service delivery at the parish level. With me, Abel Esero, today I'll be your moderator. I'll be joined by a team of experts who will be giving their thoughts and insights on whether this model will be able to take Uganda to middle income status. I'll be joined by Henry Muguzi, who is an expert in the area of electoral democracy, and Eddie Kainda, who is an economist, Gerald Koraneza, who is a youth in political spaces activist, and our only woman in the space today, Liza Karunji, who is women in democracy activist. So we are going to have them discuss and tell us whether government program of the parish development model this time will succeed. We do know that before the coming up with the parish model, government had various interventions trying to all eradicate poverty. Some of the programs government has implemented before looked at also how poverty at the grassroots or household level can be fought so that people can be moved to an economy that is more of a cash economy. Government put in place interventions like Entandekwa scheme, prosperity for all, Operation Wealth Creation, Youth Livelihood Program, Uganda Women Empowerment Program, and just we also had a Myoga. All these interventions have not all that fulfilled their goals and purposes because there have been all some ups and downs. But the new parish development model is hope that this time round government has gotten it right. So we want to know from the experts whether it will really help Uganda move into another stage in terms of development. So before I start off, uh, we do know that government has earmarked Uganda shillings 404.3 billion for the 10,594 parishes in the country, and each parish is going to be allocated 38 million for this current financial year. So I want to bring Eddie on board. Eddie, you do know that government has been putting money, a lot of money in such poverty alleviation programs ever since the current government came into power. What is your take on this parish model and what is it all about?
Thank you, Abel, and thank you, viewers. My name is Eddie Kainda, and I work here at ACFIM. First of all, for the viewer, we need to understand what this parish development model is. Government has been having a lot of poverty alleviation programs, probably some of them we have mentioned, including the Intandikwa, the NADS, the Prosperity for All, Emyoga, among others. But last year, government came up with a model that kind of put all these poverty alleviation projects into a basket. And this basket was called a parish development model. It kind of wants to look at what weaknesses have we had in the previous poverty alleviation programs and how can we amend those weaknesses, and we put them into one strong basket that can drive Uganda into another economic level. And as a result, they put in about 435 billion shillings into this project to ensure that this money goes into the different parishes. We have over 10,000 parishes in Uganda, I think about 10,500. And each of these parishes is supposed to get about 100 million shillings for the model. But this financial year, they are, I think, giving it about 38 million shillings per model, per parish. And to note, how different is this model from others? That whereas other models have been looking at other sectors, this parish model is supposed to specifically look at agriculture, because government has realized that For us to industrialize, we must promote agriculture. But also to ensure that the current statistics from Uganda Bureau of Statistics indicate that Uganda has about 8.3 million people that are poor, and about 3.5 of these are in the outside the money economy. Therefore, the model is supposed to ensure that these persons are brought into the money economy, but also they actively participate into economic production. You shall recall that for economic production to take place, first of all, we must have food security. And one of the biggest challenges Ugandans are experiencing is that we don't have food. And if we don't have food, therefore we cannot be economically secure. And therefore, part of the parish development model funds are supposed to ensure that we have food security, where most Ugandans are spending over 60% of their income on food. And then the surplus.
Oh, I think we have lost Eddie. He has network issues, but when he returns, he will continue with his points. So I want now bring Henry on board. Eddie was still giving us a hint on what the parish development model is all about. So I want you to try to also give us your own perspective on this model. How different is it from the other models that government has put in place before? And we do know that some of the challenges that affected the previous models was politicization of those interventions. And because some politically exposed persons use those interventions to drive their own political agendas and not to help the people elevate them from the household poverty. So how do you think this parish development model will survive manipulation by such politically exposed individuals for their own benefits?
Good question. Thank you, Abel, and to you, our viewers. A pleasure to be here and share wonderful insights with you. Now, on paper, the parish development model looks a good intervention. And of course, the icing on it is when they say that the intent of it is to take government to the people in a more effective way. But when you look at the context within which it is being implemented, the one thing that is reigning supreme and taking the day is politics. You will recall that from the early 2000s, politics started taking over from technocracy, and the agenda shifted from development to political survival. Now, this parish development model, in the context it is being implemented, just like the elephants before it may never fly. And the elephants before it, you have mentioned them. We had Intandikwa, we had the Operation Wealth Creation, we have had the Myoga. But you see, for as long as the intention of the people that occupy political office is to give something to the voters, the electorate. I remember so vividly in the early 2000s when, as we headed towards multi-party politics, the notion, the narrative of giving something back to my voters started gaining traction. Now, if you look at if you reflect on the campaign statements that were made by the president, he was saying, if you want to benefit from my government, vote NRM. It means, therefore, that benefits from the state are being pegged to the manner in which, to which political divide you belong to. Now, if you look at the composition if you look at what has happened before, Emioga, for example, these have turned out to be nothing but structures that are helping to entrench state patronage. Because for as long as you are getting the population and putting them in a situation where they will have to wait for government to give them something, that is the patronage. The one reason why decentralization also, which was good on paper, another elephant that never flew, is because decentralization was turned into a patronage structure. And the patronage, because if you read the definition of patronage, it speaks about the power to control the right to privileges. By denying local governments the right to collect revenue and leaving all the power to Uganda Revenue Authority, the local government were left in a situation where they had to depend only on central government transfers for survival. As we know today, these have not achieved what they were intended to achieve. Governments were taken to the people, but not really. You have the structures which, if they don't get transfers from the local government, the central government, they don't survive. So these have also turned out to be patronage structures. So this parish development model, I was looking at the composition of the parish development committee, and I have seen that by law, there must be an NRM parish chairperson. So that NRM parish chairperson, what is his role? To ensure that who benefits from what? Anyway, so the short of the story, the short and long of it is that the parish development model on paper is a good model, is a good intervention, because if you look at the amounts of money that are going to be pumped, you spoke about 38 million. 38 million, we have about 9,205 parishes. That comes to something like 349 billion. This is good money going there, but have the people been prepared? You know, over the past 35 years, we have seen this government, when they see a problem, they just throw money at it. It's like you throw meat at a dog without preparing the dog. The dog might just run away from the meat, even however hungry it is. The point I'm trying to make is, have you prepared the people? Because it begins with a mindset. These parish chiefs we are going to recruit, which society are they coming from? Are they coming from the same society that has the thieves, the hyenas? So you are getting hyenas and entrusting them with the responsibility to look after sheep, knowing that it is in the very nature of hyenas to feast on goats and sheep. So these parish development, these parish chiefs, who are going to be supervised by the sub-county council, sub-county chief. But there is no role for the cow. There is no role for the district local government. So the parish development chief, the parish chief, is supervised, reports to the sub-county, the sub-county chief, and the sub-county chief then reports directly to the national level in the Ministry of Local Government, where there will be the parish coordination unit, the parish model coordination unit is going to sit. So you get to see that now the role of the cow is removed. Never mind, these could be thieves, but maybe we need them to be in there and bring in some wisdom. So the question is, will the politicians let the technocrats do their work, or will the politicians fail to resist the temptation to use this model as a political tool to entrench and serve the interests of regime survival and longevity? These are the questions we want to see. I was in my own village, and I was talking to my village mates and finding out how prepared they are. Many of the people are not even aware of this parish development model thing. You see, so you are going to see that money is going to be appropriated. It will immediately be thrown to the people. The people will just eat it. So it remains to be seen whether this will fly. But for now, I think that just like the elephants before this thing, it may never fly. Back to you, Abel.
Thank you so much, Henry.
Abel.
I'm coming back to you, Eddie. Before you went off.
Yes.
You've had Henry talk about the elephants before failing to fly, and it thinks that this also may not fly because, first of all, the beneficiaries have not been prepared, and also people are going to implement it we don't think they have enough capacity to be able to manage this parish model very well. So back to you, Eddie.
But before Eddie comes in there, the people who are going to implement it, the parish chiefs, are hungry. They have been hungry for the last 20 years. Now, so these hungry hyenas in charge of sheep and goats, how are they going to behave? That remains to be seen.
Thank you, Henry. First of all, I want us to be positive that probably we've gotten something that can get us out of poverty. Before I got off, I was still giving a breakdown of this model that whereas we have about 435 billion shillings to the model, each of the parishes is supposed to get, I think, 100 million shillings in the long run. Though they're going to initially provide about 38 million shillings per parish. But 400 billion shillings is supposed to go directly into ensuring that the activities kickstart and they're operational. And about 53 billion shillings is supposed to go into operational administration of the project or of the parish model. But also, we need to know that 30% of the money that is supposed to go into this parish development model project is earmarked for women alone. So if at all we are supposed to have 10 groups, a group of 10 people that are in a group that is supposed to be receiving this money, about 3 of them must be women, or out of the 10 groups, 3 of them must be women groups. That is very important to note. But also, we need to know what areas is this model going to serve. First of all, they are in about 6 or 7 areas. But the first one is production, storage, and marketing. Remember that Uganda's agriculture is suffering from enhancing facilities that are supposed to improve production, including provision of inputs, fertilizers, agrochemicals. But also at harvest level, we have challenges of storage. Many of the products that we do produce go bad before they're actually taken onto the market. And therefore, the model is supposed to enhance storage capacities and post-harvest handling for the village farmers that would be accessing this model. But other areas the project is supposed to, program is supposed to benefit include financial inclusion. Remember that we said that out of the 8.3 million Ugandans that are vulnerable to poverty, about 3.5 are out of the money economy. So these are the issues that the viewer would want to listen to so that they can always prepare themselves to handling the monies that are supposed to go into the project. Abel, I think, wanted me to make people understand what the project is, and it's all about that. And based on that, we can take the discussion further. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Gerald, you've just had Eddie give us a background of what the project, the model is all about. So I want to bring you on board here. You know, government has had other poverty alleviation programs before, and now they have come up with, it's more like they have undergone a review and they have seen the other ones were not working. So they have decided to come up with a new model. How different do you think is the parish development model from the previous government programs that did not necessarily help people move out of poverty?
Thank you so much, Abel, for that very good question. Indeed, we've had a couple of programs. We've started with the Intandikwa scheme, the Bona Bagagawari, the Operation Wealth Creation, the Youth Livelihood Programs, the WIP. All of those programs were good programs, but the government does not have a political will to fight the corruption that is always infested in these very programs. And the program, the government has only one challenge. When you're enrolling like such program that is intended to transform the livelihood of the people, you have to go back and learn from perhaps the failures of these very previous programs, and you run about new things. Um, uh, as we saw in the policy statements and the implementation strategies of parish model, they are saying that they evaluated the national plan, national development plan 1 and national development plan 2, and it informed the parish development model, which is part of national development plan 3, where the government wants to go back to the local people. But you can't really reach to that very conclusion before doing a baseline survey. You see, you cannot take money to the people when you don't know exactly the kind of activities the people are engaged in. So we would have at least loved to see a very good baseline survey, the feasibility studies that should inform the government what is exactly on the ground, which kind of production, which kind of activity are the people engaged in. You have seen the Emyoga program, they just bring like a program, they roll them out, and then of course, you know, the youth and the other special interest groups, they are very hungry. You're bringing money, but you're not prepared. You have not planned for exactly where you're going to invest the money. So, in other words, you cannot bring really money like for, and then the people start mobilizing themselves, and of course, in the long run, they will fail, you know, to return this money. So, parish development model, it was a very good model indeed, but the political will you know, the government, we have the hungry civil servants at the lowest unit, like those parish development committees. You know, now the LC2 chairperson is going to be the chairperson of the parish development committee. Now, I think they are preparing themselves, it's their turn to eat. So, first of all, the capacity, their capacity really, you cannot tell me like the parish development committee that is comprised of such members. It's a parish development model committee of 12 people. You entrust them with budgeting, planning, reporting. So, and then you expect them to report to sub-county chairperson who will report to the secretariat here in Kampala. Really, parish model, I don't want to be a pessimist, but I really doubt whether we shall get a fruitful result out of it. Regardless, it is in a spirit of decentralization. Of course, we have, you know, this government, it sounds funny because we have been seeing actually in before independence, the parish at the parish level, that those were the lowest units of the government where the government could operate from. But we saw, you know, taking the powers, you know, from those very lower units by this very government, and now the government now is going back to these very low units that had disbanded. So really, I don't want to be all that pessimistic, but I don't see anything really like an impact that we are going to get in regards to this parish development model. Over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Gerald. Gerald has just been hinting about the hungry hyenas who are going to be around the parishes. And we just listened to the president on Friday when he was addressing the nation, talking about one of the challenges the current regime wants to fight most is corruption and poverty. And we do know that corruption is faced both at the political level and also the technical level. Lisa, we know, we are all aware of the fact that corruption remains a challenge and it's affecting most of the service delivery in this country. And there's an opportunity of money being taken to the lower level, where people have, as Henry had hinted earlier, people have been waiting for so long. They never saw money. Now this time, the money is leaving the central government going down. Do you think this money will survive being put to people's side, other pockets or other things, and be put to improve on the or transform the livelihoods of people at the parish level?
Yes, Abel, thank you for that question. I looked at at the framework, the monitoring framework, and just like the previous initiatives that we have seen, I'm not really optimistic that this time corruption won't be present. We are just hopeful that it won't happen as it has previously. So, yeah.
So you think this
Abel.
time, you think this time, basing on the monitoring, because it's going to be the beneficiaries themselves planning, implementing, and also monitoring the very money they are going to use. So by that, they will be able to address the issue of corruption.
Yes, Abel, I can't really hear you.
I was saying, according to their plan, it's going to be the beneficiaries mainly who are going to be part and parcel of the planning process, the implementation process, and also the monitoring and evaluation process. So by the beneficiary getting involved and not necessarily people at the central level and only the politicians, you think by that's already an indicator that corruption will be addressed?
We seem to have lost.
We seem to have lost.
I mean,
yeah, let me try to answer that question, Abel. I really liked the line of argument of Gerard, because Gerard hammers hits the nail on its head. Because he argues that, you see, there has not been a baseline survey. Because you see, there have been all these interventions and Tandikwabo, Nabagagawari, Youth Livelihood Fund, Emioga. Emioga, we were actually seeing reports on TV of projects that have died, and you hear statements such as, for us, when the money came, we thought Muzei was giving us a reward, so we ate it. And then you hear other stories where the Youth Livelihood Fund collapsed because those that had planned to rear, pig array or goats, the suppliers of the goats were the local government officials themselves, and they supplied substandard things. And then those that were supposed to procure machines, again, the technocracy of the local government had supplied kwara things. Kwara means fake. Now, so you get to see that we have left the same people in the offices, right? Never mind, we are kind of bypassing the district local government, which is nothing but a den of hungry hyenas. Okay, we have bypassed it, and we've made sure that the sub-county chief now reports directly to the central government. But the issue is, how did you arrive at this? Gerard asks a question. Was there a baseline survey? Did you review the performance of the previous programs to inform this intervention? Or did someone sit on Mount Olympus and determine that, oh, now it will be, what is it called, a parish development model? Before then it was a Mioga. You don't get to understand where these come from. And at the moment, you cannot help but make the conclusion that these are politically created interventions that are aimed at entrenching patronage. Now, you feel pity for Ugandans, because you see, we are faced with the two hungry animals here. At the bottom, you have the parish chief, the people they are going to recruit. I was reading here, they plan to recruit about 600 parish chiefs, okay? So these 5, are men, 5,000. These are men and women who have been jobless and hungry, okay? And now with all that hunger, you are giving them this money to manage. Now, you get to see that then you have hyenas at the lower level, but at the higher level you have a monster called patronage, a monster, one that is seeking to make sure that it tightens its handle on matters, on voters, on institutions, in order for it to stay in a place. So you get to see that there are two of these hungry creatures. We don't know where that now lives as citizens. But the thing is, let us wait and see. On paper, it looks like a good project, but the hungry men and women that are going to handle it. And those that
before you go off, there was one politician that I was watching from the NRM who was arguing in parliament that the reason why they did not carry out the feasibility study is the government by that time never had enough resources. So what they are going to do when they are implementing, that's when they will try to understand and establish what are the issues affecting the people, since it's a revolving fund. So they will understand in the first implementation phase as they move forward to improve on. So do you think that will help them understand?
Okay.
Abel, can I come in at that point?
No. Before you come in, let me say this. Makes this statement. For some of us who fly from Uganda to other countries, it's like someone tells you, you see, here is the aircraft, we are still building it. But let us fly it as we build it. Will you board that aircraft? No. You cannot fly the aircraft while you are still building it. First build it, finish it. So you cannot do a baseline study as you are implementing. What is this madness? Back to you.
I seem to be the only person supporting the parish development model here, but but I want to educate ourselves here. First of all, Gerard mentioned about the issue of the baseline. This model was informed by review of the performance of the National Development Plan 1 and 2. And when you look at the National Development Plan 3, the model is given weight into what is supposed to do and what is supposed to be implemented. But also, we have a strategy we call the National Financial Inclusion Strategy that looks at the number of people that are poor in Uganda and how the kind of poverty alleviation strategies that we are supposed to be entrenching into the communities to ensure that people are out of poverty. But also, NPA did a review of the decentralization strategy and policy and identified the challenges they have had specifically in the delivery of services. And these three projects, including the manifesto of NRM 2021-2026, those informed the development of the model. But when you go back to the pillars of this model, pillar number one, we looked at production, marketing, and storage. But this project has other pillars, including delivery of social services, including information, education, and communication. That is where the gist of the project is. That as we identify the parish development committees and the parish management committees, these the local government has a specific duty of ensuring that they do training, awareness, inclusion, to ensure that everybody knows about what the project is, the program is going to do. But also, the onus of managing and establishing the actual basis for implementation of the project lies in the persons that are being beneficiaries of this project. These groups are supposed to be their own managers. Remember that, first of all, these are groups that should be formed or they're already existing, and government has a duty to strengthen their capacity. But also, somebody mentioned about the issue of where is it going to be implemented. The country has been zoned into 18 products, and each zone is supposed to perform in relation to the product that they can grow most. For example, if you look at Western Uganda produces mainly milk, matoke. Northern Uganda produces cereals, maize, and maybe sorghum. West Nile produces majorly tobacco, among others. Now, production lines that are supposed to be established under the model must lie within the products that each of these regions produces. And these production lines focus on three things. One, ensuring that there is food security within those areas. Two, ensuring that each household can have at least some economic surplus. That when you subtract the amount of money that is done for food, the rest of the money should be taken. I mean, the rest of the products must be taken to the market to ensure that a household can have some economic surplus. But three, there's an issue of value addition. That for us to access better markets, probably in Uganda and even outside Uganda, we must have some basic value addition. And lastly, any of the persons that is supposed to benefit from the parish development model funds must be a member of a financially included group, either a SACCO, either a VSLA, or a registered farmer group organization. Now, all these, there's a fund specifically that has been left for administration, governance, and operations of the model. That is about the 50 billion shillings. These monies are supposed to be to do specifically that. Now, before we even get there, let us see how it's going to work out. Because the monies have not been released, right now government is in the initial stages of ensuring that the parish development chiefs are recruited, the groups are formed, training is done, the value production lines are established. Probably they do basic community surveys to establish information systems. I forgot to tell you that government is now in the process of establishing a community information system based on which most of the baseline statistics Praneza was mentioning are going to be established. But lastly, I want to tell you that this model is a revolving fund. And beneficiaries of this fund are supposed to return a 1% interest rate, including the cost of inflation. Now, previously, when government was giving out these funds like the EMIOGA, because they were politicized and securitized, people thought that government, the current NRM government was giving them gifts or donations for their support. But the construction of the model has been based on the fact that it is a revolving fund. People are supposed to return it through a banking system. That is why they're bringing on board established financial institutions that are supposed to be working with VSLAs and farmer groups at the grassroots to ensure that people are trained to make business, make production, and return the money so that that money can go to other groups. Otherwise, by the look of the 453 billion shillings and 100 over 10,000 parishes, that money can't be enough. But as we shift from one person or from one group, supposed to be going to another group, another model. And for me, I'm thinking, listening to your views, I seem to be the only supporter of this project, and I'm on the side of government this time. Let us give it a benefit, and I believe the model will be able to shift ourselves into another level. I thank you, Adel.
Eddie, I hope you will not be hiding at the end of the 5-year time when this model is being reviewed. So right now we are going for a short break, and then we shall return.
Thank you.
Welcome back from that short break. Today we are discussing about the PARISH development model, looking at will the PARISH development model take Uganda to middle income status. I have 4 guests who have been so interesting in the first break, in the first segment, and I know we still have we do have limited time, but I know they will still give us insightful views on whether this will be a success or it's just like the previous programs that came and failed to fly. As Henry mentioned, that they are just elephants that failed to fly. So I will start off with you, Eddie. We do know that the goal of the National Development Plan 3 is to increase household income, improve the quality of Ugandans. And
Yes.
why the Paris development model was thought of is it should come in to help the government achieve this goal. So do you think with the way the Paris development model has been designed and how it's going to be implemented, it will help the government increase the household income and also take off Uganda to middle income status? You know, we have been crying of middle income status, that we wanted to be a middle income status country by 2020, but now we are almost close to 2021 and we didn't achieve that reality. Do you think by now using the Paris development model approach, we can be able to increase on the household income and also reach our goal of middle income status?
Thank you, Abel. It's possible, but we must understand the operating environment within which our economic management, where we are in. First of all, we understand that the economy has been badly beaten by COVID-19, and it will take longer. It will take about 1 or 2 years to do that civic and economic organizing for people to rethink their poverty development strategies, not only at individual level, but also at an income level. This model is trying to enhance capacity of households to be centers of economic production. That each household must have something to sell. But also, if each household sells, it means that there must be something to demand, because when you sell and have some levels of disposable income, it means that you shall demand. So the instance of the project is to improve both aggregate demand and grid supply, so that this can feed into the much larger economies of scale at household level, but also at community level. But secondly, for as long as we enhance production at household level by providing inputs, by providing agrochemicals, by providing value addition strategies and value addition lines, but also ensure that through increased demand and supply, aggregate demand and supply, people can access markets. I have no doubt this kind of project can take off. Government has learned its mistakes. If you see, Henry and Koraneza were mentioning where the government has the goodwill to fight corruption. I want to take you to how one of the fishmongers, is it fish farmers or fishmongers, the Honorable Right Honorable Prime Minister has been performing. You can see that she has had the goodwill to take the fight for corruption down there at the grassroots, and people are being awakened to whistleblow any of these government officials or politicians that will be able to swindle some of the money into and divert it to some other areas that are not in line with the PARISH development model. For me, I think through the information, education, and communication to the people, it could work, and it will take you and I that we are part of the PARISH development model, the role of the civil society, that when we go out there and we take the positive message, I would not expect that I and Henry and Koraneza, when you go back to Chisoro or when you go back to Karisizo and I want to go back to Chaza, let us take the positive message that, guys, the model will work. Let us start with our own households, that our own households, as we the elite that have learned from this government and how things will work, let us try to form a change model that will change our communities, our households, and at the end of the day, we think things can be positive. But lastly, before I get off, I want to inform ourselves who qualifies to have these funds. First of all, you must be an individual of that parish and village. But secondly, you must be registered within a group or a VSLA within that village. And the person must verify that this person stays in this village. Thirdly, you must be having an account with that parish, with that group or VSLA or economic group or circle within that village. And you must have been trained to ensure that you have the basic skills of handling the monies they have given you. But in the model, they have also stated that each of the group or each of the individuals that will access funds must have some basic business plan. Now, the business plan may not be as complicated as what we know, but a basic statement of what the project is and the objectives of the project and your basic results and impact it will create into the community. And if that kind of message is taken to the community level, to the household level, I have no doubt this project can be successful. But in our civic organizing as civil society, we may not have to wait for government to do that. This is now where we come in as partners in development, that we sensitize, we inform, just like we're doing here on these platforms. Let us identify other platforms that can tell the public what the model is, and we think things can be better. Back to you, Abel.
Good, thanks, Eddie. You just had Eddie discussed that, and we do know that the parish model is taking government to the people. It's more like decentralization, and we do know that government has been undermining the decentralization policy introduced by decentralizing most of the functions. For example, planning. You find that all the planning is done at the central level. You look at issues concerning financial management. All the finances are channeled through the central to the lower governments. And also when it comes to monitoring implementation, most of those things were centralized. So do you think by using the approach they're going to use under the parish model, it's high time people at the lower governments utilize this opportunity to showcase that they can be able, if given chance, to plan very well, manage the finances very well, implement, and have an impact, so that in the next nearby future, they don't suffocate them by not giving them enough functions to do their work. Coroners, are you getting me?
Coronel seems to be lost.
Abel, I seem to have not gotten your question very well. Could you
we do know that the parish model is being used as an approach to take government to the people, but it's not the first time the government is being taken to the people. We have seen it through decentralization policy, but after some time, government again takes back people to them. Instead of it taking itself to the people, it decides to re-centralize, so people go back to the government. So don't you think that by using the approach they're using under the parish development model of taking themselves the people, giving the people the duties to plan for themselves, implement the projects as they want, monitor the very projects, and also evaluate and report back to government that this is how we have performed? Don't you think now the lower local governments have to utilize us as an opportunity to do well, so that next time government does not decentralize most of the functions they give to them?
I have issues to do with the internet, but if I gotten your question rightly, you're saying the government really, it's more that it's just waking up of the fact that now it has gone back to the people, and yet it has been undermining the decentralization policy. Yeah, true. You know, the government, this very government is very determined. You know, it does not actually its aim, it's all about survival. It aims at looking at the regime survival, but things to do with the development, like for instance, inclusion, embracing the decentralization policy by devolving all the powers, at least from a central level to local level. I believe the government does not really put efforts into realizing that. The government took a bold decision, of course, looking at the 1995 Constitution, Article 176, that clearly stipulates about the decentralization policy. And it also comes in to bring about the local economic development policy, where at least all the decisions, or kind of the participatory approach, in the sense of government programs. So the government really, all these very policies, it brings them in a very good spirit. But the only challenge that we usually have, that is still entrenched within our system, is the corruption. As you can see, like the Myoga was more of a cash bonanza. It was more of hoodwinking, the voters, the people at the local levels, so that they can, come in and vote for NRM. But it doesn't have the full commitment of alleviating the people from poverty. So I think the government needs to do better by doing, like for instance, the capacity building and the outsourcing the people at the local level, and to empower those the parish development committees. Well, the parish development committees, as I can see, there is some element. There are some members of CB and the civil society NGO on those very committees. But do you think that their contribution and their advice is always heard? Like how we've always done in the civil society, we've always advised the government, we've given them the clear path to take. But the government, of course, usually takes otherwise, because its aim, it's all about their survival in power. So, in the spirit of decentralization, and perhaps looking at service delivery, if we can get committed and the professional people at the local level, and the regime leaves the other things of survival, and it gives the full commitment in fighting the corruption. It's very hard to fight your people, because at the parish level, of course, there are now those very cadres, the NRM cadres, who are village, those stronghold mobilizers of the NRM. Those are the very people now who are going to be involved in those things. So we believe if the government really can commit itself and it recruit the people who are very committed, people who are very assertive, and with the clean heart and the commitment, I think parish development model would be a very good idea and a very good project that is aiming at transforming really the people from the subsistence economy actually to money economy, like how they usually say. Thank you, Abi.
Okay, thank you so much. I want now bring Henry. You know that civil society is one of the group that have mapped out to work with government during the implementation phase of this PARISH model, and they believe that civil society has to complement the government wherever there are some gaps. So I want to understand from you and know from, do you think civil society has been fully engaged as a broad, especially those that are dealing aspects of governance, also not only governance, have they been fully engaged by government to appreciate that this program is going to drive Uganda to a level whereby all the people who are living in the poverty lane are elevated and at least move to a cash economy? How prepared is civil society in helping government to do this, and how has government been able to also engage civil society to make them appreciate this model?
Right. Thank you very much, Abel. Excuse me. Of course, your question ties in with what Loved by Grace asked a little earlier. Well, the question was from Loved by Grace was what role is what contribution is civil society going to make towards
the success of this model?
Of the model. And I think let me start by issuing a disclaimer that when we come out and issue these, make this analysis, it is not that we don't want the parish development model to succeed. It's that we are desperate to have it succeed, but we know we are tired of repeating the same things. Now, if you look at the people that are supposed to sit on the committee, and I was reading them, the Parish Development Committee, you get to see that civil society has been thought about as a key player, because you see there will be LOC2 chairperson, there will be the parish chief, the chairs of special interest groups, the NRM parish chief, parish whatever chair, and then of course there will be the business community representative of the business community, then an opinion leader, LOC1 chairperson, and that's it. They have not imagined that civil society can play a role. So in their thinking, I think they think the role we can play is peripheral, but being who we are, we will make sure that we entrench our role, invited or not invited, in that space. For example, I think we are going to be keen on monitoring the utilization and accounting of this money. We are going to make sure that we bring sunshine into the methods they're going to use to manage this money, who gets to benefit from it, how is it being returned. We shall also, use these media platforms we normally use, internet, radio, and TV, to make sure that we get our voice to be heard. But let me say this. If you're going to take a country to middle income status, there is no rocket science. The simple thing is that you must invest in the people. Invest in the people, invest in their health. We have a health insurance for the country. A country where the first point of call for any citizen is a private health clinic. Does that reflect investment in health? What about schools? Have we invested enough? How much do we pay teachers, for example? Okay. What about infrastructure? What about value adding? What about the marketing itself? You see, for some of us who come from, who were raised by farmers and who come from Greater Masaka, we wouldn't even need this parish model. All we need is that for me as a Muna Masaka, can I go to my garden and grow my coffee, plant my beans, my maize, or my sorghum, whatever it is, that when I come to the point of harvesting, I'm able to sell it at a good price. Because the moment my neighbor sees that this guy has built a house, is riding a border, but the money, the source of the money was from the sale of the proceeds of his farm produce, my neighbor will follow suit. So until we have taken care of the markets, removed the third parties, because as it is today in Uganda, people have monopolized the space of buying produce. It is a noble area for many people. The same hungry monsters and hyenas are the same ones who have monopolized the purchase of produce. They are the ones that must export it. Why don't you let other people play a role? Because you see, when there is a monopoly, then you cannot have good prices. And so these things, I think, have to go in hand. But for us as civil society, even when we are not invited to that space, we shall get in there and play a role. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I will now come to Elizabeth. You have just heard how Eddie was very optimistic about the Paris development model. He has believed that it will succeed and it will help increase on the household incomes of most of the Ugandans. And we do know that every time we go for elections, there are claims that those impoverished voters are the ones that are susceptible to voter bribery, vote buying, those aspects. So do you believe that if at all this parish development model increases on the household levels or even individual level, even if the individuals in those very households, if their income levels increase, do you think they will not be so susceptible to vices like voter bribery during election periods?
Thank you, Abel. Yes, this model, it may not necessarily cure vote bribery, but there'll definitely be a decline in the occurrence of vote bribery. We know that there are other factors that contribute to vote bribery, like moral degeneration, greed, but we acknowledge that poverty is one of the largest factors. We see that the model is aimed at accelerating wealth and job creation and improving service delivery. So, and it also aims at getting Ugandans out of a subsistence economy into a money economy. So with this model, we hope that Ugandans will be more economically empowered and they won't be vulnerable anymore to candidates who offer money in exchange for votes. Because we have seen people sell their votes for even as low as 500 shillings. Some people even bought for food items like cabbage, salt. So hopefully if households are empowered economically, vote buying won't be as high. And the model has a time frame of 5 years, and the election happens to be in that same time period. So we are watching and we are hoping that in 5 years to come, households will be empowered and they won't really fall prey to candidates that intend on buying their votes. Yeah, thank you, Abel.
Gerald, with this political science knowledge, will tell you that any leader who wants to overstay in power has to keep the population impoverished so that it's easier to control them and rule them. So I don't necessarily see whether this is a move to economically empower Ugandans, but let's hope that in the next 5 years we see that. So we have run out of time, so I want us all to have one parting shot on what you think government can do better in terms of ensuring that this model becomes a success as compared to the previous ones that failed to succeed in accelerating the livelihoods of Ugandans to economically better state. I will start with you, Eddie.
Thank you, Abel. As we come to the end of this show, first of all, we are Ugandans. You and I are Ugandan, and we have a role to play in ensuring that our country gets better. But before that, there is something I wanted to educate ourselves with, that one of the different aspects this model is bringing in is the issue of engaging private sector, but also through business development services. When I was reading the model, I learned that we have Enterprise Uganda that is going to be critical in ensuring that it educates farmers and members about how they should be going about their businesses. But also, a very important thing is the issue of insurance. We have an agro consortium that is supposed that is whose aim is going to be giving insurance premiums to farmers, small, large, and medium, at a rate of 30, 40 to 80%. Now, you can see that agriculture in Uganda is subject to vagaries of weather. And one of the reasons why previous projects in agriculture have not worked is that they were left to the forces of climate change in Teso, in northern Uganda, among others. Now, when we have this insurance scheme, I think it can do some good thing to de-risk the agriculture sector. But also the fact that the payment system is going to be purely bank, it may help us to track accountability for these monies and ensure that people can pay back. But as I finish up this, when we were at university, me and Henry, we learned issues of social services and community development. with the one and only Professor Rutanga. This is the time for now to ensure that we use our knowledge to salvage our country and ensure that things get back to normal. It's going to take you and I to have a positive mind to ensure that Ugandans can be better. Let us invest in 4 things. 1, ensure that we have food security. 2, we have ensured that we have some economic surplus. 3, we ensure that we are part and parcel of at least one economic formation, say a circle or a group. But 4, ensure that we can get value addition and access markets. It doesn't matter whether it is my mother in the village or your mother in the village, it should be you. You must start with yourself. I want to thank you so much. I want to make a clarion call for Ugandans to support the model. We shall see ourselves in the middle income status in the next 5 years. Thank you, Abel.
Thanks so much. Gerald, your parting shot? Gerald, are you on? Okay, Liz, I think you can give us your parting shot. I think Gerald has network issues.
All right. Yes, Abel, as we get done with the show, I think there's a need for government to popularize this model more. There's a lot of education that needs to be done, and our citizens need to be educated on the objectives of this model and how they can benefit from it. Unlike the previous initiatives that people were not really aware of how it operated, and so the beneficiaries do not miss out. And I'm hopeful that this time, this model will be able to meet its objectives and will hopefully get to a middle income status. Yeah. Thank you, Abel.
Thanks so much, Henry.
Okay, Abel, thank you. Me, I'll end with a quotation from former British Prime Minister, Sir Winston Churchill, who said that success is not final, failure is not fatal, it is courage to continue that counts. I thank you.
Thank you so much. Regardless of whatever opinions they have mentioned here, let's be optimistic that this time round, since the government is bringing itself to the people, let's hope that this time round the programs they are bringing in place will help the people uplift themselves from the poverty levels that has been striking them ever since the regime came into place, and they have realized that all the approaches they have been using were never working, so they have come up with a new approach. But this is all our money. This is taxpayers' money. So let's receive the money in good faith. Let's utilize it very well and ensure that we use it to uplift ourselves out of poverty and ensure that our country moves to another level of middle income status. Thank you so much. Let's catch up next week for another edition of The Other Perspective.
Thank you. Thank you.